Good morning. It is Friday and we are here yet again, and I am so grateful and just so thankful for all the things that God has done this week. I'm just grateful to be here again on the land of the living. Look, so listen, I want to share something with you, something that actually just kind of manifested as I was teaching Sunday school on last Sunday, and that is sometimes when you are we're still talking about like being in the valley of decisions, right? And when you talk about discernment and being able to tell the difference between what is what, there are three voices sometimes that manifest that you have to be aware of and have to be able to discern which voice it is that is giving you this information and that is the most prominent voice in your ear. So look, I got notes. So the first voice is the voice of the Lord, or the voice of the Spirit of God. The next voice is the voice of our flesh. And then, of course, the last voice will be the voice of the enemy. Okay, Angeline, well, how do I tell the difference? So the voice of God, or the voice of the Spirit, will always be followed by the spirit of peace. Not just confirmation, but you have peace in the decision that you know that you have to make. The peace of God will always follow you, go before you, be with you when you know that it's the Spirit of the Lord that's giving you instructions to do something. Now, when it's the voice of your flesh, right, there's a certain type of pride or confidence that you know is within self, meaning that like, oh, I can do that, like, oh, that's not it, I can do that, I can let that go, I can do this. And that is you trusting in yourself, right? Leaning to your own understanding. That would be the voice of your flesh. And also the voice of the flesh, like the spirit of pride is also associated with that. Pride comes up because at this point, you don't need God. You're not leaning to God's voice. You're not listening for anything He has to say about the situation. You're like, no, I'm going to do this. And oftentimes, the voice of the flesh also sounds like the last voice, which is the voice of the enemy, of course. And the voice of the enemy, oftentimes, it births confusion. It births delusions. It births distractions, right? The voice of the enemy kind of coincides with the voice of the flesh, because it's something that you can do on your own. A lot of times the voice of the enemy, it sounds like the easiest route, right? It makes sense, to respond in such a fleshly way. But in this season of our lives, we cannot afford to rely on the voice of our flesh or the voice of of the enemy. Sometimes when you are faced with certain decisions, you have to make a decision really, really quickly. You don't have time to spend 3 hours in God's presence and then come out with a solution. But that's why it is important to designate time with the Lord, right? Designate time in prayer and even in fasting and in meditation. So that way, when you have to make these quick decisions, you can hear from God, and you have the confirmation within yourself to say that, okay, all right, Lord, I may be nervous about this decision. I may be nervous to make this decision, but I'm not fearful. I have the peace of God with me, even when it is quick, fast, and on the dime. So I encourage you this weekend, spend time in prayer, spend time in your word, and to really, really look within yourself while you are seeking God and ask God for discernment. So that way you can discern between His voice, the voice of your flesh, and the voice of the enemy. But whatever you do, be great with your great self. Good morning.